isn't this just fantastic? Captain's Log, Subdate 21111.1. Too many ones. A lowly crewman had the audacity to tell me that I was treating Ensign Bork unfairly, so I gave that crewman to the simps to buy us time to initiate an exterminatus. Before we start with the subject of today's video, I shall be streaming on Twitch tonight some fishing. If you're at all interested in a casual chit-chat and some air quotes gaming, please consider swinging by. My Twitch channel is linked in the description down below. Today we are going to be talking about the US women's soccer player, Megan Rapinoe. Megan Rapinoe is a two-time World Cup winner, also an Olympic gold medalist. The US have done rather well for themselves over the last 5 years. Possibly 10, they were runners-up in 2011 and the Olympic gold medal is from, well, London, so 2012. But as is the case with the women's football or soccer team, in most countries, no one cares. So there are some issues here, and Megan Rapinoe has a voice on this. She is, well, according to the BBC, regarded as one of the most influential voices in sport, forgetting the existence of the following. And I know that it says one of the, but I'm going to be a dick for a moment and say Tyson Fury, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, Serena Williams, Marcus Rashford, Ronaldo, Messi, Usain Bolt. Would you like me to add some female athletes' voices to this that perhaps are more well known than Megan Rapinoe? Lindsey Vonn, Billie Jean King, Danica Patrick, Ronda Rousey, Martina Navratilova. Most of them are in tennis, I'll give you that, where there is a lot more interest and by extension, a lot more money. But there are still more well-known voices elsewhere. And I'd like to point out, when I put up this list of famous female athletes, you weren't even in the top 10. Alex Morgan was ranked higher than you. So I'd like to make this point now that the BBC in their typically unbiased fashion are yet again sensationalising somebody that most people haven't actually heard of, 'cause clicks. In fact, I'm not entirely sure why. In truth, it doesn't really matter. We're going to focus on some of the points raised in the article that are derived from her autobiography, and use them to debunk some still ongoing points that are made when it comes to society at large, because they are still quite frustrating, and I can't believe people still peddle these lies. One of the early points made in the article by Megan Rapinoe concerns what it means to be a public figure to her, which I found to be utterly useless to me because it was just her talking about her relationship, none of which I give a remote damn about. So instead we're going to talk about this part. For Rapinoe, white athletes should use their platform to give others a voice. A lot of times, white athletes, particularly male athletes, don't feel the effects that other people do. They don't feel the effects of racism, sexism, misogyny, or pay inequity. We don't speak out because we are privileged, and we don't have to. It comes in part from a lack of examination of your own life and the world around you. For white people, and probably white men in general, they don't really have to analyse the world around them to be successful. For example, if you're gay, you're constantly traversing a heteronormative world. While it is not necessarily people's fault, people that were born now didn't create the country the way it was created, and that doesn't mean you don't have a responsibility to it. I'm going to insert this now. I quite like Gene Simmons' stance. Granted, it's for politics, but it can be applied elsewhere. So sticking to what you're good at and not inserting yourself into other things or using your platform to then tell others how to live their lives is probably for the best, because it doesn't champion anything and just makes you look stupid. The assertion that white men in sports don't experience racism or sexism, misogyny or pay inequity is laughable. Men can feel the effects white men certainly can for racism when they're being ostracized for being white, and that is by definition racism. Men can experience sexism because there are many people who do just look at them as eye candy, which is a weak point, I know. Men of course can't be the victim of misogyny, but the word misandry is the one you were looking for. And as far as pay inequity goes, actually men do. If you bother to look at any team, you might notice the majority of players are paid differently based on their contract and who negotiated it for them, meaning some players like Harry Kane will earn £350,000 a week, whereas in that same team, you have Danny Rose, who earns £60,000 a week, which per annum is £7 million less than Harry Kane. Granted, the tax part will certainly fleece a fair chunk, but there is a difference, not just because of where they stand, but because of what they bring to the table. Harry Kane is a forward, one of the top-scoring football players of all time in the United Kingdom. Danny Rose is a defender. His job is just to stop the ball getting to the goalkeeper. So pay inequity does in fact exist. If your entire premise is everyone should be paid the same, granted these salaries are quite large, but I could by all means take it to Crawley Town Football Club if you want. The argument still stands. You then mention that many don't speak out because they are privileged. I would argue you're wrong again, because football players are really stupid. Something I referenced in last week's exhibition of stupid people. So they don't examine the world, because they're busy going there on a holiday with their bimbo wife. To then use this faulty premise to assert that white men in general don't have to analyse the world around them is true, because they're too busy thinking about when they're next going to touch a ball. And to be honest, it is a toss-up between whether it is one that touches their foot or whether it will be their hand that touches their knackers. Arguments like this were used to frame your reasoning for why you took a knee in 2016 because of Colin Kaepernick. Noting in this very picture, women of colour aren't joining in on this one. I can't imagine why. But then you argue it's because people were worried about getting fired. You don't think by chance it's because of the faulty premise brought forward by Colin Kaepernick, a man who was raised by a white family, who then dumps on them. A man so universally not talented, he failed to get drafted, who then claimed oppression, but it wasn't that. Then got an opportunity to play for someone else only for his partner to open her mouth and cost him that opportunity. I hope he's doing well doing Nike adverts. I will, if anyone's interested, link a BitChute video I did exclusively for BitChute covering that very issue. The remainder of the article centres around the Women's Soccer League season being postponed in America because of the Corona-Chan pandemic, which has led to a number of the players for the American soccer team to come to the United Kingdom, hence earlier referencing Alex Morgan because she came to play for Spurs, oddly enough. Yet again in this particular segment, Megan Rapinoe references the fact there's a lack of investment in women's soccer. I would argue it's only when you guys are in a final that your nation decide to turn up, because it's much like religion. You only turn up for public holidays or important events, like finals, where you can simply say, America, we be successful, yo, we're better than all of you. But for the rest of the year, no one cares. And also it's worth pointing out now, American soccer, even the men's, isn't that big. You've had some big names over there like David Beckham and even Wayne Rooney. Robbie Keane as well, he was pretty good. But I'll be honest, one or two teams have money, the rest don't. Most of your players are salaried, and their salaries aren't that great. In my mind, the best American soccer player that ever existed in your country was Landon Donovan, and he should have played in the Premier League because he was that good. But even he, for the majority of his career, earned very little considering what he was doing. His later years, of course, changed that, which is fortunate because he's retired, and I wish him nothing but the best. When it comes to women's sport, there is a lack of interest in soccer. There has always been a lack of interest, and that sounds unfair. But you can throw money at something if there is not already a core audience interest in it, or even a cult following. You're going to struggle to make a profit, and that is a key problem. Some UK clubs, yes, are investing a lot of money in women's soccer, but at this present moment in time, the only reason they can do that is because they have network deals, because they have enough money to throw it at something that might not make profit. Consider your attempts to try and get more money into women's soccer the equivalent to every Sony movie they're currently force-feeding down the audience's throats that are supposed to empower women but end up costing Sony hundreds of millions of dollars because they don't know how to market a movie. Anyway, I think I'm done complaining about this now. I would love to know what you all think about this. Please do let me know in the comments down below. I will link the article as well for those interested in reading it. If I don't see you on Twitch tonight for some fishing, have a fantastic Wednesday, and thank you all for listening.